Welcome. In this video, we're exploring how two personality types may interact in a romantic relationship through the lens of MBTI personality theory. We'll look at the strengths they might naturally bring out in each other, the challenges they may encounter, and the ways they can grow together. Keep in mind that MBTI describes personality preferences, not fixed rules, and it can't predict whether a relationship will succeed or fail. Every person is unique, and every relationship is shaped by far more than personality alone. Think of this as a tool for self-understanding and reflection, rather than absolute truth. With that in mind, let's get started. ENTPs often experience life as an endless stream of ideas waiting to be explored. Guided by extroverted intuition, they naturally jump between possibilities, connect seemingly unrelated concepts, and enjoy questioning assumptions simply to see where the conversation leads. Their supporting introverted thinking encourages them to analyze those ideas carefully, refining them through discussion, experimentation, and debate. In relationships, they often express interest by engaging someone's mind, introducing new experiences, and keeping conversations lively and unpredictable. They generally appreciate partners who enjoy exploring different perspectives without taking every disagreement personally. While they may frequently challenge ideas, that curiosity often comes from a genuine desire to understand, improve, and discover new ways of looking at the world together. INTJs often approach life with a long-range perspective, naturally looking beyond the present to imagine how ideas, systems, and plans could evolve. Guided by introverted intuition, they enjoy identifying patterns and forming clear internal visions of the future. Their supporting extroverted thinking helps transform those ideas into structured plans and practical action. In relationships, they often value independence alongside genuine commitment, appreciating partners who enjoy thoughtful conversations and respect personal space. Rather than expressing emotions through constant reassurance, they may demonstrate care by solving problems, planning for the future, and investing in shared goals. While they can appear reserved, they often form deep attachments with people who appreciate their curiosity, loyalty, and thoughtful approach to building a meaningful life together. People with these personalities often find themselves drawn into conversations that last far longer than either of them expected. An ENTP and an INTJ tend to approach the world from different angles, yet they frequently discover that they're exploring many of the same ideas. Both enjoy complexity, both appreciate competence, and both are energized by understanding how things work beneath the surface. Their similarities create a sense of familiarity, while their differences keep the relationship dynamic. The core of this pairing comes from the interaction between the ENTP's preference for extroverted intuition and the INTJ's preference for introverted intuition. Both are intuitive personalities, but they use intuition differently. The ENTP expands possibilities, constantly generating alternatives, while the INTJ narrows possibilities into a single coherent vision. One asks, what else could this become? The other asks, what is this most likely leading toward? Those perspectives naturally influence nearly every part of the relationship. Like any pairing, though, personality preferences only describe tendencies. Emotional maturity, communication habits, shared values, and life experience all play a significant role in determining how well any two people work together. Part 1. First Attraction. An ENTP is often intrigued by the quiet confidence that many INTJs display. While the ENTP enjoys meeting many different kinds of people, the INTJ can stand out by seeming genuinely difficult to impress. They usually aren't competing for attention or trying to entertain everyone around them. Instead, they often appear focused, self-directed, and selective about where they invest their energy. For an ENTP who enjoys solving intellectual puzzles, that reserve can become an invitation. The INTJ, meanwhile, may initially appreciate the ENTP's mental agility. The ENTP's preference for extroverted intuition allows ideas to flow rapidly from one topic to another without losing momentum. Rather than viewing this as scattered, many INTJs find themselves surprised by how often those unexpected connections eventually reveal useful insights. Conversations rarely feel repetitive. One of the earliest attractions is simply the quality of discussion they can have together. Many couples bond through shared hobbies or similar lifestyles. This pair often bonds through ideas first. They may spend hours discussing technology, philosophy, business, psychology, politics, fictional worlds, or hypothetical situations without noticing how much time has passed. There's also a shared appreciation for competence. Both personalities often respect people who demonstrate independent thinking. Neither usually feels obligated to follow traditions simply because they're traditional, and both can admire someone who has carefully developed their own conclusions. At the same time, early misunderstandings are common. The ENTP's playful style of communication can occasionally confuse the INTJ. An ENTP might debate simply because exploring multiple perspectives is enjoyable. Challenging an idea isn't necessarily the same as rejecting it. However, the INTJ often prefers discussions that move toward refinement and conclusions. If the ENTP keeps reopening settled topics, the INTJ may wonder whether the conversation is actually going anywhere. The ENTP may also misread the INTJ's reserved emotional expression. INTJs often process feelings internally before sharing them. That doesn't necessarily indicate disinterest, but an ENTP who enjoys visible reactions may initially have difficulty knowing where they stand. Likewise, the INTJ may underestimate how serious the ENTP can actually be. Because ENTPs often use humor, experimentation, and playful argument as part of everyday conversation, they're sometimes mistaken for people who never settle on anything. Over time, many INTJs discover that beneath the spontaneity is someone capable of deep analysis and genuine commitment. Those early discoveries often strengthen the attraction because each begins realizing there's more depth beneath the other's surface than first appeared. Part 2. Strengths Together. One of this relationship's greatest strengths is how naturally both partners encourage intellectual growth. The ENTP constantly introduces new possibilities. Their preference for extroverted intuition makes them comfortable exploring unconventional solutions, asking unexpected questions, and making connections between unrelated subjects. Rather than viewing uncertainty as uncomfortable, they often find it energizing. The INTJ complements this with introverted intuition, which specializes in identifying underlying patterns and long-term direction. Where the ENTP produces numerous ideas, the INTJ often identifies which ones deserve serious investment. This creates a rhythm where brainstorming and strategic planning reinforce one another instead of competing. Communication can also become one of their strongest assets, particularly when both partners are mature enough to appreciate different thinking styles. The ENTP often enjoys thinking out loud. Talking through possibilities helps clarify their ideas. The INTJ generally prefers internal reflection before speaking. Instead of creating constant conflict, these approaches can balance one another. The ENTP encourages the INTJ to verbalize ideas earlier, while the INTJ encourages the ENTP to slow down long enough to refine promising concepts. Decision-making often reflects this same balance. The ENTP may identify opportunities the INTJ would never have considered. The INTJ may recognize practical risks that the ENTP overlooked. Together, they often reach decisions that are both imaginative and carefully considered. Their shared preference for logical analysis also reduces certain kinds of interpersonal conflict. Both usually appreciate direct communication more than subtle emotional signaling. Difficult conversations can often remain focused on solving problems rather than assigning blame. Emotionally, they may support one another in quieter ways than some other couples. Neither personality necessarily expresses affection through constant reassurance. Instead, support often appears through problem solving, thoughtful conversations, respecting independence, and investing time in helping one another succeed. The INTJ's preference for introverted feeling also adds an interesting dimension. Although INTJs may not openly express emotions frequently, their personal values often run very deep. The ENTP may gradually discover a level of loyalty and sincerity that isn't immediately visible. Meanwhile, the ENTP's preference for tertiary extroverted feeling can help create a lighter emotional atmosphere. They often introduce humor during stressful periods and may encourage both partners not to become consumed by every problem. In everyday life, both generally appreciate autonomy. Neither usually expects constant interaction throughout the day. Each partner often enjoys pursuing personal interests while remaining confident in the stability of the relationship. For many couples, independence creates distance. For this pairing, independence often strengthens mutual respect. As teammates, they frequently perform well because they naturally divide responsibilities according to their strengths. The ENTP explores possibilities and adapts quickly when circumstances change. The INTJ builds structure around long-term objectives and maintains consistency. When they genuinely respect each other's contributions, they can accomplish projects neither would likely complete in exactly the same way alone. Part 3. Biggest challenges. Despite their similarities, this pairing also contains several recurring sources of tension. Perhaps the largest difference involves how each personality relates to certainty. The ENTP often enjoys leaving options open. Their preference for extroverted intuition naturally generates alternative possibilities, even after a decision has been made. Revisiting plans doesn't necessarily indicate indecisiveness. For the ENTP, continuing to explore can simply be mentally stimulating. The INTJ, however, often experiences satisfaction from reaching clarity. Once sufficient information has been gathered, they typically prefer committing to a direction and refining it over time. Constantly reopening decisions may feel inefficient or unnecessarily disruptive. Neither approach is inherently better, but each can frustrate the other. The ENTP may view the INTJ as becoming overly attached to a single vision before every alternative has been explored. The INTJ may see the ENTP as endlessly chasing new possibilities without committing enough energy to completing them. Communication can also become more difficult during disagreements than either partner expects. Although both rely heavily on logical reasoning, they don't always define productive discussion the same way. The ENTP often enjoys intellectual sparring. Challenging arguments can actually strengthen relationships from their perspective because honest debate demonstrates engagement. The INTJ is usually less interested in debating for its own sake. If they believe the conversation has already reached a reasonable conclusion, continuing the argument may feel exhausting rather than enjoyable. As a result, the ENTP may believe they're inviting collaborative exploration, while the INTJ experiences unnecessary conflict. Emotional differences may create additional misunderstandings. The INTJ's introverted feeling often leads them to process personal emotions privately. They may need time before discussing difficult experiences. The ENTP's tertiary extroverted feeling can create a different pattern. While not always emotionally expressive themselves, ENTPs often respond by talking through situations, introducing humor, or attempting to shift the emotional atmosphere. During stressful periods, these responses may unintentionally miss what the other partner needs. The INTJ may perceive humor as avoiding serious emotions, while the ENTP may interpret silence as emotional distance. Lifestyle preferences can also create friction. ENTPs often enjoy spontaneity and adapting plans as new opportunities appear. INTJs generally prefer preparing for future objectives with greater structure. A weekend that the ENTP imagines unfolding naturally may already exist in the INTJ's mind as a carefully organized schedule. Again, these aren't absolute differences. Many individuals fall somewhere between these tendencies, but when they do appear, both partners may occasionally wonder why the other seems resistant to what feels perfectly reasonable. Part 4. Making it work. When this relationship grows over time, one of its greatest strengths is that both personalities usually enjoy improving systems, including the relationship itself. The ENTP often benefits from recognizing that not every discussion needs to remain open indefinitely. Sometimes the INTJ isn't resisting exploration, they're simply ready to move forward with the information available. Learning when to shift from brainstorming into commitment can help the ENTP preserve the excitement of exploration without creating unnecessary instability. The INTJ, meanwhile, often benefits from allowing more room for experimentation before settling on conclusions. The ENTP's seemingly unconventional ideas occasionally reveal opportunities that structured planning alone might have missed. Both partners also benefit from becoming more intentional about emotional communication. Neither personality necessarily enjoys dramatic emotional conversations, but avoiding emotional topics entirely can gradually create distance. Making space for honest discussions about expectations, frustrations, and appreciation often strengthens trust without requiring either partner to abandon their natural communication style. Respect for independence remains another important factor. Both generally thrive when they have room to pursue personal interests alongside the relationship rather than replacing them. Maintaining individual goals often keeps both partners intellectually engaged and prevents either from feeling confined. This pairing tends to thrive in environments that encourage learning, creativity, long-term projects, entrepreneurship, research, strategy, or any shared pursuit requiring thoughtful problem solving. Many couples enjoy continuously learning together because curiosity remains active throughout the relationship. On the other hand, they may struggle during periods that require frequent emotional reassurance, rapid lifestyle compromises, or prolonged uncertainty without communication. External stress can amplify their natural tendencies toward overthinking or withdrawing if they stop checking in with one another. As both individuals mature, they often become better at recognizing that the other isn't approaching problems incorrectly, just differently. That shift in perspective can transform many recurring disagreements from personal frustrations into complementary strengths. In conclusion, an ENTP and an INTJ often build a relationship around curiosity, competence, and a shared enjoyment of understanding the world. Their differences aren't simply sources of conflict, they're also the reason each partner may continue finding the other intellectually engaging long after the initial attraction fades. The ENTP brings flexibility, creativity, and an openness to possibility. The INTJ contributes focus, long-term vision, and steady strategic thinking. When those strengths are appreciated rather than resisted, they create a partnership that balances exploration with direction. Like every MBTI, pairing, however, personality preferences describe patterns rather than guarantees. Communication, maturity, shared values, and mutual respect ultimately shape the relationship far more than four personality letters ever could. For an ENTP and an INTJ who remain curious not only about ideas but also about each other, this pairing has the potential to keep evolving for years to come.